Hi, this is Jim, and I'm the New Hampshire Rock Guy, and we're out on another one of my mining adventures. Wow, look at this spar here. It's just falling out of the mine walls, and there's so much more to see. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Feel all 6 sides of the tourmaline crystal. What would be west into the Connecticut River Valley and the mountains of Vermont.
World-class beryl crystals, both aquamarine and golden.
If you look hard enough, you'll find something it's facing.
Get ready for a fantastic journey of this incredible mine.
To Molesky's shop or Osborne's, you know, there was a hell of a hole in the ground right
there on the side of the road, yeah.
And I suppose it's filled in. I always wonder why nobody got killed in there, because they'd fall into it if they didn't know, particularly if it was frozen over. And,
yeah, it wasn't but 12 feet off the side of the road, right?
No, it was there.
Yeah, those tunnels go right beneath the road.
Yeah.
On the mica rifting, just to help our viewers and the need during World War II. So a mica crystal would come out of the ground, and then there were charts. You would try and get the largest, clearest pieces of the mica, and the larger you could get, the more value there was when you sold it to the government. So mica rifting was a process of getting rid of the edges and trimming it down, or trimming it to a certain thickness, and then that would get shipped off and often to a tool and die type company that could stamp that mica into washers or all different shapes. And mica is used all throughout any intensive heating plant. So certainly the engines on a ship were loaded with mica in the all of the connections, because it's oil resistant, heat resistant, water resistant. It just has these properties. So the rifting would get it ready so that you could get the maximum money when you went to go sell it to the government, and then the government would stamp it into all different shapes. Some of the stamping actually took place here because Bertha Britton is Betty Ramsey's grandmother, and we have a picture of Bertha working in the Alsted on Mechanic Street.
Bertha Harrington, wasn't it? Didn't she marry Harrington, Bertha?
You know, that I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, might be. And but anyway, Betty gave us a bunch of mica products that were made by her grandmother.
And weren't they using isinglass windows and clear sheets
for the wood stoves?
And stoves, and I'm sure they were used in old carriages originally. Mica.
The lanterns, yes. Yeah. Lanterns was a big use. We have mica antiques at the museum in East Alsted, out behind the Mole Hill complex, and often mica could be, when it was made into a thin sheet, you could actually have it go circular. So something about this size that we might all be familiar with if you're a camper is the Coleman lanterns. Well, up until the 1950s, right through the 50s, the farm version of the Coleman lantern was mica, because if it got kicked over by an animal, it wasn't going to break as easily. They didn't have the tempered glass that we do have now. So anything that had, there were numerous mica chimneys that would contain a flame, give off the light because you could see right through it. So let me show, I think I have one more picture to show you. This, again, I think from the Alsted Historical Society. It's one of our mines, or nearby, and it's quite an operation. What we're looking at is the bottom of a mine pit, and it's a place where they would be hoisting or bringing perhaps the new material out from the tunnels, and they would be hoisting it to the surface. So to me it looked like there was enough here that this could have been the colony mine, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I can see the rails going in where the tram car would be going in to fill up and come back. Either that or a prisoner escaping from the
Did you ever hear about at the big mine, the Gilsum mine, that they actually lowered one of those Jeeps that we might see in a Gomer Pyle driving or Andy Capp, but it was a military Jeep that they outfitted a dump back, and Dick Fisk of Gilsum had the job of driving it down the tunnel, loading it up, bringing it out, dumping it, and I talked to somebody that remembers watching that Jeep get lowered down, and the mine was so deep. He said it looked like a little speck at the bottom of the.
Yeah, there was quite a hole.
Yeah.
Well, there's still quite a hole, but after that hole was there, you go down another 2 stories anyway, maybe 3.
Well, they had when we were talking earlier about the large timber that would be used for the boom and the derrick. There was a derrick at the big mine on the top, and then there was one in the mine that was the top of it. So say it was 50, 60 feet high. It was 110 feet below the surface, plus 60. So it was easily, a couple hundred feet. And in 1918, there's documents that says the air shaft was over 125 feet down.
I wonder how big that shaft was.
Yeah, how far?
In diameter.
Oh, they weren't.
You got to have a lot of air down there. That just didn't happen.
That's a great. I climbed down a couple of them as a kid. It was kind of dangerous. I did some of the air shafts up at the Colony mine because they were newer. The ones at the big mine were much older. One of my friends that grew up at Lake Warren, Lisa Carvella, she lives in Vermont, I believe, to this day. She went down the one at the big mine, and until the opening just looked like a pinprick above her. But you went down, and then it would shift because the ladder had to stand on something.
Yeah.
So they put a stope, and then it would go down and shift. But anyway, she was pretty adventuresome to get down that far. So we'll show you these pictures. I have one other question to come back to the gentleman that lived next to the post office. Did he have a wooden leg that you remember?
But he had a bad leg.
A bad leg.
Gee, he was a hard man to know, I think. And I really didn't know him much. I knew a lot of his family very well because the Craig farm in East Elsted, I farmed over there for years. So I know Herm and Katie and all the Wynnum family that...
These would be ancestors of his?
Oh, certainly, fairly close. But I say I can't tell you. I know he was lame, and he didn't have an awful good reputation for being a well-liked man.
Well, we could leave it at that. The urban myth story of this particular gentleman was that, and there's no doubt that the mines that he was operating are right on the sides of the road, and there were 2 competing mines. The Fitzgibbon mines was on one side, the Lyman mine was on the other, and people were stealing the mica. There were mica mines because it was just too easy. They come by. So supposedly he booby-trapped the mica pile somehow and then got injured by his own booby trap, which led to that leg. Now, some circles say that the urban myth got that he blew his leg off and he had a peg leg, so that's why I asked it that way.
I don't know if it's a peg, but I know he was a gimpy.
Yeah.
Fellow.
So supposedly that's how that happened. Our audience is laughing at this. Well, we hope we're enlivening you at home as well with our stories. It's just such a pleasure to talk to you because you're giving us wonderful firsthand accounts of the operations that took place here, and it was a big economy for a long period of time.
Well, mining, particularly in wartime, when it boomed up there for half a dozen years, it just was a big industry in this whole area. And it involved not only the people who were actually mining, but the transportation, the trucks, and the repairs, and this and that. They're a big deal.
There was a whole separate transportation company, because I know Dale and his brother Bill's the fire chief in Gilsum. Bill Johnson has the repair business. their father was involved in the transportation business, and they had a fleet of these trucks, perhaps the Sterlings or others, and that they were subcontractors, or that operation. They the mining company themselves didn't own the trucks. That's what maybe some did, but for a lot of that big feldspar production.
Well, there was a problem getting it to market, and
Fast enough, you mean, or
well, that was your problem was trucking, and originally they had these old hard rubber wheeled chain drive trucks that were small bodied. I mean, you put on today the amount of volume that these trucks go by here carrying everything, but they didn't have, they figured they had 2 or 3 ton on. They had a heck of a load.
Right. Now, these are the same ones that we could see outside Ralph Balla's. He's got some of the Sterlings there.
Yeah, he's got about everything. They're all international trucks.
Okay, yeah.
That's his specialty. And
well, I noticed there was a couple that had the Sterling. You could see the chain drive, so perhaps we'll go by this afternoon and be able to get a picture of that to add in. Yeah.
if he was around, he'd be happy to tell you all about
Yeah,
it.
I hadn't seen. Tracy said she hadn't seen him.
Well, he's not. Both of them aren't very good these days.
Oh.
A little whiny, one way or another, and.
Do you know, maybe you could shed light on this, I believe when Tracy Hansen did one of the radio shows like she did with you, and she did one with the Ballas, that it came out that the sawmill came about as a business to keep the mine workers busy all winter, so he'd had the same crew to go back in the spring, and he didn't have to retrain them. But now the sawmill is still left and the mining's gone.
I can't say one way or another. I don't know. I never heard that part of it. The mining, I know the mill has grown exponentially over the years and modernized, and it had a fire there, and they had to start all over. And
is this the one in North Walpole? In Walpole? The mill? Or are you just talking about Golden Keen Company?
No, I'm talking about this Ballard's Mill.
Oh, the sawmill. Sawmill. I'm sorry. Yes.
Sawmill. Now that's right now it's a good business, or as good as the lumber business is going to be. And Ralph is on the way out of it,
His sons run it.
John, I suppose, and Bobby. Got 2 sons there. And that's inevitable that sooner or later that's going to be something else, or somebody else going to own it.
Yeah. Well, it's very active to this day.
Oh, lumber, logs go this way and lumber goes that way, with monotonous regularity.
So it's not the mining trucks anymore; it's the logging trucks. I think I'm done with these little handouts that I brought to share with you. Actually, I do have one more. It's a small one. This is a picture from the Lyman mine. So this would have been Craig. Again, the mines change names, and different people know them as different things. But what's nice is that all of the Margaret Rhodes was ever able to share with me the postcard where those names came from.
Sure.
So that this could be produced and name all those workers. About 7 or 8 workers shown in this picture. And what's exciting is that, for the prosperity of the museum's sake, we have the name of each of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, that's a hard way to make a living, but what do you suppose they got actual wage? They get 20 cents an hour? Or?
Probably going way back, because again, we could go back in time. The best data I have is from that World War II. It was $1 an hour, and that the most profitable other businesses would be logging or shepherding or things like that, and the dollar per hour was right up there. And then during World War II, the mine workers had rations for gasoline, for their
Yeah.
shoes, and it was critical to everything. How are we doing on time on this one?
2 minutes.
So I'd love to end with this knowledge on this video that two things about the war and mineralization. We haven't talked a lot about what feldspar is used for. Hopefully you can get that in some of the other videos that we produce. But it's used when you grind it up into the powder. It's used in the production of glass, ceramics, earthenware, enamel that we mentioned. So it's a key ingredient. When the Golden Keen Golden Keen Company was active in the mines and the crushing plant in East Alsted, they were supplying feldspar to 18 states throughout the Northeast, well, it's beyond the Northeast region of America. 18 states got their feldspar from this company to manufacture glass, and post-Prohibition there was a big need for glass, but a big consumer, two big consumers, was Bonamy for the scouring powder. They wanted the purest, whitest feldspar, and then Corning Glassworks. And we've all heard of Corning. If you haven't, you look up Corningware, Pyrex. These are inventions of Corning Glassworks out of Corning, New York. And we have proved, this is interesting, we've proven with the use of ultraviolet light that some glass made by the Corning Company will fluoresce orange. The typical fluorescence of glass is much that people are familiar with is Vaseline glass, which was a depression glass, is also often called. So in those periods, lesser quality ingredients were used, and the typical green fluorescence is coming from your radioactive minerals, why they call it uranium glass as well. But so the orange is a different color, and the orange came off the final step of the pulverizing process at the big plant in East Alsted that crushed this, the Golden Keen Company, and they used chert balls inside of a ball mill to pulverize to the finest powder. The chert came from the English Channel, and it was brought over in ships as ballast. And the chert is what fluoresces orange. And as they got worn down, the orange went into the final feldspar, which makes the orange glass. So we can certainly show, and I don't know what, there may have been other feldspar mills throughout the Northeast that were supplying Corning, but for certain, fluorescing orange glass could have easily been made by feldspar from Alsted. So we appreciate your time and attention today, and thank you, Gordon, for your knowledge and all your sharing.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's been wonderful, and I'm sure our viewers will enjoy these videos. Again, we'll sign off here, and we're going to bring you a few other videos this weekend that we're working on, so we're very excited about having Jackson Stone, videographer Vermont, back here in his homeland, helping us produce these videos for you. Thanks so much, and have a great day.